unless you've had one before and had the experience of one, you're not going to like it at the beginning. So it's real thick stuff, and I don't know if it's going to work or not. Are you right? Shouldn't be putting it through it. Yes, I know. So yeah, my bar wouldn't fit on because my balls was too big. Don't even go there. The balls for the 7.6 is on the bar, and these ones are, I think for category 2 it'd be right, but different sizes. So anyway, look at small balls for the 54 days. Filling our first tank. Now the tank I mixed there in front of the camera was the one over there in the corner. It's too thick. We went to this one here instead. Have been drawing water to this one, and it's about half full, this tank now. He emptied this tank earlier on in the year, left about a little less than a quarter of a tank left. Now half full, and we added the water to it. So we added quite a bit of water to it. It mixed absolutely lovely. It has the right consistency of it. I don't want to make it sound like I'm making whipped cream. I'm going to talk about consistency because it is you know what, but it's the right texture. That's even worse texture. It's the right, that type of stuff. It's nice and watery, yeah. So we fill this load here and we head down to our first field. We have a couple of fields to do now today, about 10 acres or so. So we'll continue on with that and get on to our first load. Now, just as the title says, or hopefully says in this video, I'm just going to give you a quick lowdown on how the dribble bar works. So any of you that follow our channel and followed for a while now, when we got this, I'll be honest with you, I was fairly frustrated for the first month. And I spoke to another lad that got one as well, around the same time as mine, just a neighbour, and he was the same. He was, oh, I hate this thing, he said. I hate it. And he knows, he watches this channel, he knows exactly who he is. And that seemed to be quite a common thing with a lot of people. So if you do buy one, you'll be joining that club, because unless you've had one before and had the experience of one, you're not going to like it at the beginning. You're going to find it frustrating. You're always going to hear people saying that there's a learning curve to it, and by God there is a learning curve to using one of these, but it's doable for anybody. And I'm going to show you the sequence of events. If you guys want to go back and watch the first video I done when I was messing with this and I made a couple of mistakes, and I showed all the mistakes, because I want this just to look exactly like what it'd be like for you guys buying one for yourself. What's going to happen? There's no point in going out and saying, oh, this is brilliant and does this. So simple, because it would be lies. It's as simple as that. So I have it set up here. 7.6, your tractor will probably be different than this one, but the dribble bar itself comes with this button, and this button here is to kind of control what's the word? What is that word? A relay. Which basically, that relay is on the back of the tank, and that swaps between the booms on the back, which fold out, and the actual macerator. So you can use one spool valve to control all. So if you only 2 spool valves on your tractor, you can work this no problem whatsoever. You don't need the third spool valve. I use the third one because I have this lad for changing over from spread to fill hydraulic version, which it's alright. It's nothing to brag home about. Very hard to get into neutral, and yeah, I wouldn't miss it if it was gone. It's not a game changer, but I have it and it's on the tank when it came, so I use it. That's why I use the third spool valve for, but without that I'd be only using 2. So one of the spool valves then is obviously used to open and close the lollipop in the back of the tank, just like a normal tank, and then the other one is used to both control the macerator, which here, and flick of the switch the opposite way, and it controls the booms up and down. So I'm just going to show you it in action. It comes like this here, with this little mounting bracket that you can fit on the tractor. Some people have them tied up here or whatever. It's just handy. I just screwed it to the actual dash of the tractor and it just sits there lovely below my armrest, and can flick it on and off my finger. And it's hooked in here into the 12 volt battery supply, a 3-pin. So I turn the 12 volt on, which is on there actually now. And there's no light lit up on this switch. So if you want the macerator on, red light comes on. That just lets you know the macerator is on. This way, no light, which lets you know that the boom's in control. So we're going to let our boom down now. Open the window just so you guys can see better. So we're moving this forward. The boom comes down fairly fast. You wouldn't want it coming down any faster, to be honest with you, and it goes up just the same. So that's it folded out. Next thing I do is I flick on the macerator, and now when I turn this back and forth, it's going to turn the macerator on and off. It's straightforward when you get used to it. So then the next thing you do is you turn on your tank. So I'm just going to explain it before I turn on the tank, because it is going to get noisy. So you turn on your tank, your vacuum tank like you would normally, and you open your lollipop first, and then you turn on your macerator. But when you turn your macerator on, you have to actually bring it back and keep it on. It has to be a constant flow, because remember, the slurry itself is what lubricates the macerator, so it needs the slurry running through it all the time to keep it lubricated. So always lollipop on first, then turn your macerator on, and away you go. Lollipop in, macerator on, and away we go. It's just like that. So I'm traveling now at a fair speed. So I'm doing on 3D here on Dana 4. I'm doing about 7.5 kilometers an hour. I find that just nice. It all depends again on the slurry you're putting out too, and the type of weather it is, of course. But that just seems to work well for me. That is a mixture, that tank. It's not really that watery, it's just a nice consistency. We look at it in a wee while when we're outside. So I'll just concentrate where I'm at here, because this field is quite tricky in parts. It's quite sloped here, so you have to be very careful the way you go with these tanks. I think 2,000 gallon tanks, they can be a danger. They're not the same as what the 1600 was like, and they're good leg to lie over, quite handy. So just have to be really careful where I go here. Wide angle PTO shaft just helps you an awful lot, especially with the dribble bar. You don't have to turn it on and off so often. It's a great thing if you can afford to put one in your tank. Powerful yoke to have. So now I'm just going to turn the macerator off. I'm not going to turn off the lollipop. I'm just going to round this corner, which is pretty sharp. I'm going to turn the lollipop off. Careful, slurry finished. Right, there we are. So same sequence again. Pump on, lollipop opened, macerator on, and away you go. So obviously coming uphill, this is the thing we're getting to now. This is where the problem can start, and where the frustration can kick in. So with the macerator on, you're going to lose power, just like I'm doing there now. And people wonder about, do you need 150 horsepower? We're down to 3A now. We're up this hill, and normally without that macerator on, she'd sing up it, but she needs every bit of that power to go up that hill. Another thing you could do is adjust the flow going to your macerator on the back of your spool valve. You can manually adjust the flow going to it. I have fiddled with that a bit and find a bit much difference, to be honest with you, but maybe someone can do it better than I can and get that just right. So depending on the horsepower of the tractor you have, just keep that in mind, because on a flat field, 100 horsepower to pull that tank, believe it or not, it would no bother and run the macerator on flat ground. It's just a different ball game when you're in hilly ground, and that's why I was buying this tractor. The horsepower, it needs every bit of it to do this job. 5 acres of my ground would be flat, the rest of it is all hilly and awkward fields, so that's why it's needed. I really do need the power for that job. That's it, tank is now emptied. So pump is off, all reverse. Just turn off your lollipop. I always wait a few seconds, just let it drain out, because if you lift it the way it is, it plasters itself. So I'll just let it sit for a second and it drips out. And then it's just a sequence again of just turning the macerator off. Now that re-engages the boom. Lift your boom up. And that's it, one load out. Now another thing I'll say, just going by the questions I get asked. Now I'm no expert in this. I don't have it long enough to know an awful lot about it, but I have it long enough to get the general idea of how it works. Some people said about the amount of slurry that comes out. Is there less or more? Do you have to drive faster? Well, that's a 7.5 metre dribble bar, and I can't see much difference compared to the spread plate that was in it before. I thought at the beginning it was coming out a wee bit quicker. Still think it does, but there is a cone I think you can put in, but you can slow it down. I haven't actually asked the guys in Mastek, but I think there is a cone you can get that fits into it to slow the thing down if you need to slow it down. But I'm managing it now, I don't need to. Just drive a bit faster, and the idea isn't to plaster the ground in slurry, it's just to put enough on the ground that's going to get washed in, and that's all you really want. It all depends on the texture of the slurry as well. So we get off now, have a really quick look at what it looks like. This is in the field there now, and I'm just standing on top of it, and you can see the lines. So it's not really watery stuff, it's nice texture to it now. But look at, if I was doing that with the splash plate, the whole grass would be covered. And this is the whole thing about the dribble bar. It's not about Mastek or whatever dribble bar you buy, it's the same concept with them all. The idea is to not contaminate the grass as much. Yes, the first initial idea was to cut down the amount of ammonia being released into the atmosphere. That's why it's called low emission slurry spreading. But never had cows go into a paddock yet with using this where they would roar. I've often seen with the splash plate, if it wasn't fully washed in, cows would go in and they wouldn't be happy. They could smell it off the grass, and you'd hear them, you'd just let you know vocally they weren't happy. But I've never had this happen. I've never had it happen with this. And especially this year, I haven't got much rain and stuff has never really got fully washed in, and it hasn't caused a problem. Slurry. Slurry. Look at the grass. Clean. Nothing on my hands, so that's just the real benefit of it. So just get another few load out now, and we get the drone up in the air in the other field. And you'll see it from above, you'll see it from behind, you'll get a good look at what exactly the way it works, and we'll give a recap at the end. Just as I have my dribble bar folded out, before I put out this load, it's not a full load, so I have to wait a wee while for it to build up pressure. It's almost full, but it's a thick load, and I mean thick. I can't even get the pipe out of the tank. The last bit of it was solid, so it's real thick stuff, and I don't know if it's going to work or not. Are you right? Shouldn't be putting it through it, yes, I know, but I'm going to stick it through it and see what it does. It can handle the slurry that's you would put out with a spread plate. You know, if you're going to put out pure thick cement with it, probably not. I want to make this do most of the rest of the field. I'm actually in 4A now. Flat field, that's the thing, flat field, you'll just put through stuff, no bother, it's a pleasure. And it's the only flat field we have, and there's 5.5 acres in this. This is thick stuff now. But it is handling it. Not coming out near as fast, that's for sure. I'm trying to keep it in the gear that I'm in. But you'll see now, as soon as I kick in the pumps on, doesn't kill the tractor at all. Lollipop open, no problem. Macerator, find that dying down. So I reckon it pulls about 20 horsepower at least out of the tractor. level. So we're motoring along here at 10 kilometers an hour in 4A, down to 4 numbers, so 4A. Not a bother to her. She's putting it out lovely. Oh yeah, it's slowing down alright. I won't be doing this very often. There's rain coming anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. It's still not really doing any harm to the field. I wouldn't put this on the silage field. There'll be a feeling that it'll be still laying on top when you go to bring it in. But on a grazing ground, we're alright. Don't worry too much about that. But I just wanted to show you that it can handle thick slurry. Well, that and the fact that it was the last load. I just want to get the field kind of half finished. There we go, away again. It's just not going to finish the field, but I have another tank of dairy washings that I'm going to put through it. And that's one thing as well I will say. When you're finished, especially thick slurry like this, run a load of water, dairy washings or something out of the bottom of a tank through it last, so that it doesn't lay in the macerator, lay in the pipes, because that's what will block your pipes, and that will block your pipes. It hasn't happened to me, but I've been told by every contractor that has contacted me about this machine that if you do that, it's a recipe for disaster. So yeah, just run a watery load through it. Bumpy spot here because we run shores through here a couple of years ago and just left it a little bit bumpy. This used to be a silage field. Years ago we used to put silage in this. Always good field of ground. Hard field to drain, wet at times. Because the fall of the water is just very hard to get the fall to that shop over there. We had a kind of a bowl in the middle of the field. But it's a lot drier than it used to be. It doesn't really get wet now. We spent a lot of money on it. There's that empty there now. Pump off. Click our switch. There we go. So we'll just stop it here for a second to show you. All the crows are about there enjoying all the bits of worms and things that are in the slurry. But you can look at this stuff and see yourself just sitting on top of the grass more than that, and it's thick slurry, very thick slurry. And she handled it. She put it out. You can see what the fill pipe was like. Yeah, I know it's not the right thing to be putting through it. I know that. Just that last bit, it wasn't all like that, but just that last bit was really thick. It was the bottom of the tank. And I just said, you know what, we'll blow this back in the tank, or we'll take it over and just give it a go for the crack. The master is not hot. Just wanted to do it for the video. It wasn't a full load and it shouldn't do any harm. There was enough stuff going through it to keep the macerator lubricated. If I found that a couple of the pipes wasn't working, I would have stopped. But that's just to give you an idea. It can handle thick slurry. It comes out a lot slower, but it would come out a lot slower out of the splash pit as well, but it can handle it. And that's it. That's just the proof is in the pudding. Make of it as you will. I'm not here to tell you any difference. I'm just giving you a farmer's opinion on it. And I'm sure there's a lot of farmers like myself will put an odd tick load through her by accident or on purpose. It makes no difference. An odd tick load will always sneak in there, and there's one there just to prove it. So I'm in a thing called derogation, and sorry about the wind here. I hope I'm facing the right way so you guys can hear me. So derogation compulsory to have a dribble bar now, so we can't use a splash plate anymore. It'll eventually come in for every farmer. But it is a low emission slurry spreading. It's to help stop ammonia from escaping up into the atmosphere. And yes, it's a costly machine. We didn't get any grant for this. We had to buy this outright. You can go and check the video out. You'll find the full details on how that worked out. So my real honest recap on it is, the first month was frustrating. First week was terrible. The first outings, I was really annoyed with it. Just thought it too fiddly and everything. But then I listened to what other people were saying, and it's just a new machine. You really have to just get used to it, and you do. That's the truth of it. You get used to it very fast, and when you do, the benefits are great. Not just for the environment. I know that's what a lot of this is about, but it's not just for the environment. It's what it does to your grass. We all know the price of fertilizer. Next year could be every bit as bad. We don't know. So if we can utilise our slurry better, it's definitely the way to go. So I'm not going to get too technical into it. A lot of farmers just want to know, does it do the job it's supposed to do? Does it grow grass better? Yes, it definitely does. Grass grows better with the dribble bar. Doesn't matter what dribble bar you use. Any dribble bar that puts it on the ground like that there, grass will grow better for it. That's the first time I ever put a load out that thick. I find the real watery stuff does much better. Other people mentioned about going bigger than a 7.5 metre. Yeah, I wouldn't go. For me now, there might be different reasons for other people to do it and contractors and things, fair enough, but for a farmer, someone like me, I think that's big enough. And it hasn't given me any trouble. Macerator has never been opened, never been touched. The only thing I did do back about a month ago was open this here and see was there any grit in the bottom of it, and there wasn't. It was completely clean. Doesn't tend to be much grit in our tank. The one in the yard, the little small one in the yard, is the one that would have grit in it, just from collecting on cattle's feet and things. But I never empty that one. I always just emptied it about 3/4 empty, and I never let the pipe down to the ground. So it's early days with it, but I didn't see any grit in it. So that's it. That's all I can tell you about it. I know a lot of people are looking at these back and forth now, and I'm not going to tell you which brand to buy or nothing. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm just telling you about the dribble bar itself and how I'm finding it so far. Very early days, but I'm happy with it. Really, really happy with it. If you get one, the first thing you're probably going to have to do is cut the pipes. A little bit shorter, they're definitely too long when they came, but you can always cut a piece off. It's very hard to add a piece on. So yeah, that's a simple little thing. I wouldn't mind that. So the in recap is, I'm not here to tell you which brand to buy or nothing like that. I'm just showing you how the dribble bar itself works. But I would say to you, if you're buying one, if you're currently going out to buy one, don't just take my word for it. Look for someone who has one for about a year or even 2 years if you can find someone, and ask them their opinion. Ask a neighbour, ask a farmer, and they'll tell you their honest opinion on it. I wouldn't ask someone who only has it a month or two, because I guarantee you they'll say it's very awkward. Just ask someone maybe who has it a long time, and they'll give you the best advice you could get. Ask plenty of people. That's what I done, because most people are really helpful and will give you their honest opinion on it. So that's it. That's my final recap. Just closing up the gate. The job is done. I've just run the last tank through of dairy washings. That's cleaned the thing out. So when it's sitting now for a couple of days, it's not going to harden up on the pipes. One thing I will say also is make sure you run your macerator in opposite directions. So move your spool valve the opposite way and it will run the blades the opposite. Just helps the thing to wear evenly. I found that out through actually a fan, and it was a good tip to get, because that is quite important. It just helps the thing to wear more evenly, get longer out of your macerator. One thing I would watch out for is that little switch is on the dash of the tractor I showed you about, not on the dash, on the side panel of the tractor, for flicking between your boom and your macerator. And it controls this valve here. That's the valve I was talking about. Well, it's a good thing to remember to hit that switch. Just always try to remember it, because I know this fella that doesn't remember it all the time, and has a habit of opening the lollipop and turning on the macerator. He thinks he's turning on the macerator, going down the field with the booms coming up and the dung going absolutely everywhere, waving across at his neighbour across the hedge, and wondering why the neighbour has a good smile for him that day and a big wave back, and finding out later on down the field that you're making quite a mess and looking like an absolute idiot. And probably you could end up doing that several times. I've never done it now, it never happened to me, but it might happen to you, so just be careful of that one. Talk to you next one.